Will, by Will Smith. Introduction. Have you ever wondered what it takes to become the biggest movie star in the world? I mean, really wondered. Not just the talent, or the luck, but the raw, unshakable drive that separates someone who's good from someone who's a global icon. There's a moment in this story, a quiet one, that tells you everything you need to know. A young man, barely out of his teens, finds himself on the set of his first major TV show. He's so terrified of failing, so desperate to prove he belongs, that he doesn't just learn his own lines. He memorizes the entire script. Every word, for every actor. He's so deep in it that when other actors are delivering their lines, you can see his mouth unconsciously moving, mouthing their words right along with them. That young man was Will Smith. And that small, almost comical detail isn't just a funny anecdote. It's a window into the soul of one of the most successful entertainers in history. It reveals a relentless, all-consuming work ethic, born from a place you would never expect. The book we're exploring today is his story. It's called Will, and it's not just a memoir. It's a confession, a manual, and a profound look at the war between the person we are and the person we pretend to be. This book has sold millions of copies, not because it's a celebrity tell-all, but because it pulls back the curtain on the universal struggle we all face, the battle with our own fear. Over the next few minutes, I'm going to share with you the incredible journey of Will Smith, from the streets of West Philadelphia to the absolute pinnacle of Hollywood. But more than that, I'm going to reveal the single, powerful lesson that he learned at the very bottom, after losing almost everything. It's a lesson about the difference between winning and being happy, between desire and purpose, and between the character we build to protect ourselves and the person we were always meant to be. This isn't just a story about becoming a star. It's a story about becoming yourself. Book summary. Everything you think you know about Will Smith, the alien-annihilating hero, the charismatic movie star, the bigger-than-life personality, it all began in a single moment, in a bedroom, when he was just 9 years old. It began with fear. Will describes himself as a coward. He remembers watching his father, a man he both worshipped and feared, a man everyone called Daddy-O, punch his mother in the side of the head so hard that she collapsed and spit blood. And in that moment, frozen in the doorway, Will did nothing. He was her oldest son, her only chance for help, and he just stood there. That single moment of inaction defined him. He writes that Will Smith, the global superstar, is largely a construction, a carefully crafted character designed to protect himself, to hide that scared little boy, to hide the coward. That failure became a subtle string of apologies to his mother that would fuel everything he did for the rest of his life. His father, Willard Carroll Smith Sr., was a complex and powerful figure. Daddy-O was a hero and a source of immense pain. He was a veteran of the Air Force, a brilliant engineer who started his own refrigeration business from nothing. He ran his family like a military platoon. The mission was everything. Cleaning your room wasn't a chore, it was an order to police your area. 99%, he'd say, is the same as 0. Everything was life or death, and Daddy-O believed he was preparing his children for a harsh, chaotic world by instilling in them an unshakable discipline. This discipline was Will's greatest advantage, but it was forged in an environment of constant tension. One of the most powerful lessons came when Will was 11. His father decided to build a new brick wall for his shop and, instead of hiring contractors, he tasked Will and his younger brother Harry with the job. For nearly a year, every day after school, through weekends and holidays, they mixed mortar and laid bricks. The task felt impossible. Will was certain he would grow old and die still working on that wall. One day, his father overheard him complaining. Daddy-O marched over, snatched a brick, and held it up. "Stop thinking about the damn wall," he said. "There is no wall. There are only bricks. Your job is to lay this brick perfectly. Then move on to the next brick. This became the secret to Will's entire career. It's a boring secret, he admits, but it's the truth. You show up and you lay another brick. Bad opening weekend? Lay another brick. Marriage failing? Lay another brick. Through failure, loss, humiliation, and death, every single day, he got up, mixed the concrete, and laid another brick. His father gave him his name, but more than that, he gave him his will. But while Daddy-O built him up with one hand, he tore him down with the other. The constant fear in his childhood home forced Will to develop a razor-sharp intuition. He learned to read every shift in his father's mood, every twitch of an eye, every tone of a voice. Recognizing these emotions was critical for his personal safety. And he found his defense mechanism. He decided to be funny. If he could keep Daddy-O laughing, if he could entertain him, then his family would be safe. This was the birth of the pleaser, the entertainer. He processed his father's abusive episodes as his own failure. He believed he should have been able to keep his father satisfied, to protect his mother, to make everything okay. It's in this compulsive desire to please, to keep everyone laughing and smiling, that a true entertainer is born. This need to perform blended with a wild and vivid imagination. As a child, Will lived in a fantasy world. The border between reality and make-believe was thin. He'd tell such outlandish stories that he developed a reputation as a liar, but he explains that it wasn't that he lied about his perceptions lied to him. His mind would instinctively create whatever story he felt people needed to hear to be okay. This imagination was his gift, but it also made him an oddball. He went through a passionate cowboy boot phase, wearing them with shorts, which in West Philly might as well have been a bullseye on his back. He once asked for a Raleigh chopper for Christmas, one of those lowrider bikes with a giant banana seat, while all his friends got matching Huffy mountain bikes. He thought he was the coolest kid on the block, the leader of the pack. They all just laughed at him. But this delusional confidence would later become his superpower. When you're unaware that you shouldn't be able to do something, you just do it. When producers asked if he could act, he said of course, even though he'd never acted a day in his life. When studios said a black lead couldn't sell movies internationally, he just couldn't understand how someone so wrong could have that job. His rules were different. But living in your own world has consequences. He was skinny, unathletic, and seen as an easy target. One day, playing basketball in his cowboy boots, he declared he was about to dunk like Drive. He genuinely believed it. He took off running, launched himself into the air, and promptly hit the rim, flipped backward, and knocked himself unconscious on the asphalt. The bigger the fantasy, he learned, the more painful the collision with reality. While his father represented discipline, his grandmother, Gigi, was the source of love. She was, as he calls her, Jesus's homegirl. She worked the graveyard shift as a nurse to support the family and was the moral compass of his life. Her approval felt like God's approval. She was the one who encouraged him to perform, organizing church recitals and talent shows. At 11, he played the song Feelings on the piano for her at a church Easter show. He says the look on her face in that moment, a look of pure, unconditional adoration, is something he has been chasing in the eyes of every woman he's ever loved since. In that performance, he felt a secret oasis of love. He could hide behind a mask and still be loved, gaining everything while risking nothing. The concepts of love and performance became fused in his mind. Great performances earned you love. Bad performances left you abandoned and alone. This was the world he navigated, straddling two cultures, the black world of his neighborhood and the white world of the Catholic school he attended. At school, he was the black kid. In the neighborhood, because of his proper speech and middle-class upbringing, he was never quite black enough. Humor became his sword and shield. Funny is colorblind. If he was making the white kids laugh, he wasn't just the N-word. If he was making the neighborhood kids laugh, he wasn't getting his ass kicked. If he was making Daddy-O laugh, his family was safe. Laughter equaled safety. But his high school career began with a painful lesson in the power of words. On his first day at the predominantly black Overbrook High, terrified and anonymous, he tried to use humor to feel safe. He stood up in the crowded cafeteria and announced, "He's here. Y'all can relax." A kid nearby muttered that nobody cared. Will shot back a slick comeback. "Gimme 10 minutes, your girl gon' care." An hour later, that same kid snuck up behind him on the stairs and cracked him in the head with a combination lock, knocking him unconscious. Lying in bed that night, his mouth bloody and his head throbbing, he realized something profound. His words had created his reality. He wasn't weak, he was infinitely powerful, but he had no control over it. His grandmother, Gigi, had once found his rap book filled with curse words. She didn't scold him. She just left a note inside: "Truly intelligent people do not have to use language like this to express themselves. Please show the world that you are as intelligent as we think you are." That night, lying in bed, he decided to use his words to empower, to help rather than hurt. He never cursed in his rhymes again. This was the moment the Fresh Prince began to emerge. Hip-hop was exploding, and Will, with his clean rhymes and comedic, storytelling style, quickly developed a reputation. He was clever, but his real weapon was humor. He understood that you can't beat funny. You can be the toughest rapper in the world, but if someone lands a punchline that makes 40 people laugh at you, you're done. His incessant practice, fueled by Daddy-O's work ethic, made him invincible in rap battles. He found his voice, and with it, a new kind of power. This power led him to a young DJ who was making waves in Philly, a musical marvel named Jeffrey Allen Towns, better known as Jazzy Jeff. Will was supposed to battle Jeff's MC at a house party, but the MC never showed up. Will offered to fill in, just until the other guy arrived. What happened next was magic. It was what athletes call the zone. Will writes that it felt like they already existed as a group and just had to catch up to themselves. Jeff could sense every punchline, dropping the track at the perfect moment. Will could read Jeff's transitions, knowing which scratch was coming. That night, in a basement in West Philly, DJ Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince was born. Their rise was meteoric. They practiced relentlessly in Jeff's basement, which was a sanctuary, a magic workshop. Jeff's work ethic was the only one Will had ever seen that matched his own. They were creating a new sound, blending musical sophistication with humor and storytelling. In 1986, their single "Girls Ain't Nothing But Trouble" started getting radio play. This created a major conflict at home. His mother, who he called Mom, was a fierce advocate for education. For her, college was everything. It was the bedrock of a successful life, the only armor against the world's brutality. To her, rapper was a hobby, not a career. Will had secretly decided he wasn't going to college, and when he finally told her, their hopes collided. It was a heartbreaking standoff. It was Daddy-O who had the final word. He had been an artist himself, a photographer whose dreams were cut short because they were deemed impractical. He saw something of himself in Will. He made a deal. "You got 1 year," he said. "We're gonna help you. But in 1 year, if it ain't happening, you're going to college." A year felt like an eternity. A few weeks later, Will was bagging ice at his father's shop, listening to the radio, his mind filled with doubt. What if his mom was right? What if this was all a mistake? And then, he heard it. The DJ announced a new song from Philly's own, DJ Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince. It was his voice. His rhymes. Him. On the radio. It was the joy of a new life, the joy of being right about himself. What followed was a whirlwind. Their debut album, Rock the House, went gold. They went on tour with hip-hop legends like Run DMC, LL Cool J, and Public Enemy. Will was an adventurer, soaking in every new experience. Their next album, He's the DJ, I'm the Rapper, was hip-hop's first-ever double album. It was a creative masterpiece, anchored by the hit single Parents Just Don't Understand. Then, the unimaginable happened. The Grammys announced they were adding a rap category for the first time, and Parents Just Don't Understand was nominated. They won, becoming the first rappers ever to receive a Grammy. Will was now a world-famous, Grammy-winning, freshly minted millionaire. He was 20 years old, and he had conquered life. Or so he thought. The higher you climb, the harder you can fall. Will's first love, a girl named Melanie, had been the center of his world. He had built a home for them, vowing to protect her and heal her past traumas. But one day, coming home from tour, he felt something was off. His internal shock collar, tuned by years of reading Daddy-O's moods, was buzzing. He confronted her, and she confessed she had cheated on him. He describes the feeling as being hit in the head with a lock all over again. A blue flash, then an alternate universe where nothing makes sense. The pain was so intense he says he would have preferred to be stabbed. He desperately needed relief, so he turned to the homeopathic remedies of shopping and rampant sexual intercourse. He flew 10 friends to Atlanta and closed down a Gucci store. He had sex with so many women that he developed a psychosomatic reaction where having an orgasm would make him gag and sometimes vomit. He was doing the very thing he hated his father for, hurting women. His career was also hitting a wall. Their third album, And in This Corner, was a flop. The crowds at their shows were thinner. The calls from the industry stopped coming back. To make matters worse, he hadn't paid his taxes. The IRS came for everything: the cars, the motorcycles, the house. He was worse than broke. He was in the hole. Rock bottom was a jail cell in Philadelphia. He had been arrested for aggravated assault after a fight at a radio station involving his security guard, Charlie Mack. It was a case of being in the wrong place at the wrong time, but there he was, lying on a cold stone floor. Everything he had built was gone. He called a woman named Tanya Moore in Los Angeles and asked if he could stay with her for a while. He couldn't even afford the plane ticket. He had to borrow $10,000 from a local drug dealer he'd become friends with. 3 days after Will landed in LA, that friend was shot and killed. Will hid in Tanya's apartment for weeks, lost, depressed, and terrified. But Tanya, after letting him mourn, gave him the push he needed. "You have to get out," she told him. "Go to the Arsenio Hall show. Just go hang out. Meet people." It was at Arsenio's show that he met a music executive named Benny Medina. Benny had a story to tell, his own. He was an orphan from East LA who, as a teenager, was taken in by a wealthy family in Beverly Hills. He had an idea for a TV show based on his life. He asked Will a simple question: "Do you know how to act?" As a general rule, Will writes, if someone asks him if he can do something, the answer is always yes. Weeks later, he got a call. Quincy Jones wanted to meet him at his birthday party. Tonight. Will flew to LA and found himself at a star-studded party at Quincy's Bel-Air mansion. In the middle of the living room, in front of Steven Spielberg and the head of NBC, Brandon Tartikoff, Quincy Jones told him to clear the furniture. He was going to have an audition. Right now. Will froze. He needed a week, an acting coach, time to prepare. Quincy pulled him into the library. "Right now," Quincy said, his eyes suddenly sharp and sober, Everybody that needs to say yes to this show is sitting out there in that living room. And you are about to make a decision that will affect the rest of your life. Quincy Jones, Will explains, understands magic. He sees the universe as an infinite playground of possibilities. His job is to move the rocks out of the way so the blessings can shine in. He was moving furniture, but he was really trying to get Will to move his own rock, his fear, out of the way. Will took a breath. "Fuck it," he said. "Gimme 10 minutes." He performed 2 scenes, and the room erupted. Quincy, in a whirlwind of creative energy, orchestrated the entire deal right there on the spot. By the end of the night, NBC had agreed to shoot a pilot for a show tentatively titled The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. 6 weeks earlier, Will had been broke and hiding in an apartment. Now, he had a new family, a new home, and a new life. The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air was an immediate success. But Will knew that television, like music, wouldn't last forever. He had to have the next thing ready. That next thing was movies. His goal, he told his manager, James Lasseter, or JL, was to be the biggest movie star in the world. They studied the patterns. The top 10 grossing films of all time all had special effects. 9 had special effects and creatures. 8 had special effects, creatures, and a romantic storyline. This became their formula. But getting a studio to bet hundreds of millions on a young, black sitcom actor was a long shot. His personal life was also taking a turn. He was at a taping of the show A Different World, hoping to meet a young actress he'd had his eye on, Jada Pinkett. But between scenes, he met another woman, Sherry Zampino. They laughed all night. 3 months later, they were married. A year after that, their son, Trey, was born. On the night Trey was born, Will fell to his knees, sobbing uncontrollably, terrified of the responsibility. He made a vow: he was going to be the best father this planet had ever seen, or he was going to be dead. His first major film role came in 6 Degrees of Separation, a serious drama that forced him to go deep into method acting. He got so lost in the character of Paul that he lost touch with himself. He even fell in love with his co-star, Stockard Channing. When he returned to the set of Fresh Prince, he had lost his comedic timing, his swag, his charisma. He couldn't remember how to be Will. His marriage to Sherry was also rocky. He was living with a stranger. The disconnect was too deep, and they eventually divorced. The day he signed the divorce papers, he called Jada Pinkett. "Are you seeing anybody?" he asked. She said no. "Cool," he said. "You're seeing me now." Their first few months were a whirlwind of passion and conversation. Jada, he realized, was a queen strong enough to bear the weight of his dreams. Their connection was powerful, but his ambition was a relentless force. He hit his stride with Bad Boys, a film that transformed him from a sitcom star into an action hero. Then came Independence Day. It was in Australia, at the opening of a Planet Hollywood, that he met Arnold Schwarzenegger, Sylvester Stallone, and Bruce Willis. He asked them for the secret. Arnold told him, "You are not a movie star if your movies are only successful in America. You have to travel the globe, shake every hand, kiss every baby. Think of yourself as a politician running for biggest movie star in the world." This became Will's secret weapon. He realized other actors hated promoting their movies. He saw it as a massive opportunity. He would fly to Europe for the weekend, do a day of press, a premiere, sign autographs, and be back on the set of Fresh Prince by Monday morning. He even started monitoring Tom Cruise's promotional schedules and vowed to do 2 hours more than him in every country. His edge? Music. He would hold free concerts outside the premieres, turning a movie opening into a cultural event. The formula worked. Independence Day became the second highest-grossing film of all time. Then came Men in Black, which combined a hit movie with a hit song, creating a promotional storm. That movie cemented the 4th of July weekend as Big Willie weekend. He was officially the biggest movie star in the world. But this success came at a cost. He was running his life like a fight camp, demanding perfection from everyone around him, including his family. He had achieved everything he'd ever dreamed of, but a subtle sickness began to creep in. He was more anxious and fearful than ever. He was suffering from the brutal nightmare of losing it all. I Am Legend had the biggest December opening ever, but his first question to JL was, "Why do you think we missed 80 million?" He was trying to fill an internal emotional hole with external achievements. Jada had put her own dreams on hold to support his. She had dreamed of having a heavy metal band, Wicked Wisdom. She even landed a spot on Ozfest. But when Guns N' Roses asked her to open for them, the tour conflicted with the filming of The Pursuit of Happiness, a movie Will was making with their son, Jaden. Jada turned down the tour. She had boarded the Will train, and there was no getting off. The breaking point came at Jada's 40th birthday party. For 3 years, Will had planned the Taj Mahal of birthday parties, a surprise 3-day event in Santa Fe. He commissioned a documentary about her life, tracing her family lineage back to slavery. He flew in her favorite artists. Mary J. Blige gave a surprise performance. It was a massive, public display of his love, designed to fix everything. After the grand unveiling of the documentary, they went back to their hotel room. Jada was silent. "That was the most disgusting display of ego I have ever seen in my life," she finally said. They screamed at each other until their daughter, Willow, emerged from her room, crying, her hands over her ears. "Just figure it out, both of you, figure it out." Their marriage wasn't working. They were both miserable. "I retire," Will told her. "I retire from trying to make you happy. You go do you, and I'ma go do me." It was the brutal death of their romantic fantasies. They agreed to let each other go, to find their own happiness separately and then bring that fullness back to the relationship. This period of separation led Will on a profound journey of self-discovery. A trip to Trinidad, where he was forced to be alone and without his usual security, made him realize he was an addict, not to drugs or alcohol, but to work, to winning, to the approval of others. He was addicted to filling every second of his life so he wouldn't have to feel. He embarked on a 14-day silent retreat, alone in a house in Utah. For the first time, he was forced to be with himself, and he discovered he didn't enjoy his own company. This led him to a deeper exploration, including over a dozen ayahuasca ceremonies. In these journeys, he met a feminine presence he calls Mother. She showed him the infinite beauty inside of himself, a beauty that didn't need won movies or hit records to be worthy of love. She taught him to stop the constant inner chatter, to be still, and to surrender. Surrender had always been a negative word for him. It meant losing. But he began to see it as an infinite power. Letting go was as powerful as grasping. The final lesson came from Daddy-O. He was dying of heart failure. Will was given 6 weeks to say goodbye. Drawing on what he'd learned about death, he knew his father needed one thing: permission to die. "You did good with your life," Will told him. "And when you're ready to go, it's okay. I got it from here." As Daddy-O's body weakened, the soldier, the ogre, was gone. In his final days, Daddy-O had one burning question: was my life useful? He needed to know that their lives were better because he was here. Will realized that the ultimate happiness, the smile his Gigi always had, doesn't come from what you get, it comes from what you give. In the end, it won't matter how well they loved you. It will only matter how well you love them. Will had spent his whole life running from fear, building a perfect, impenetrable fortress of success around himself. But he learned that true happiness isn't a fortress, it's a garden. It's not about winning, it's about loving. The journey wasn't about slaying the monster, it was about learning to love the scared little boy inside, the one who had been standing in that doorway all along. It was about realizing that bravery isn't the absence of fear. Bravery is learning to continue forward, even when you're terrified. Commentary. When you close a book like Will, it's hard not to feel a sense of awe. Not just for the incredible heights of success, but for the profound depths of the emotional journey. This isn't just a story about a movie star, it's a story about the human condition. It's about the masks we wear, the characters we create to protect ourselves from a world that feels dangerous and unforgiving. The most powerful lesson, for me, is this idea of the persona versus the self. Will Smith, the global icon, was a character named Uncle Fluffy, the ultimate pleaser, the funny guy who needed everyone to like him to feel safe. This character brought him unimaginable success, but it also trapped him. It forced him to suppress his own feelings, his own truth, in exchange for approval. And when Fluffy failed, the general would come out, the demanding, relentless winner who would get the flag to the top of the hill, no matter the cost to himself or the people around him. How many of us do this in our own lives? We create a version of ourselves for work, another for our friends, another for our family. We become so good at playing these roles that we forget who we are when the curtain falls. We forget what we truly want, what we truly feel. Will's journey is a powerful reminder that the ultimate adventure isn't conquering the world, it's finding your way back to yourself. His lesson about surrender is another piece of timeless wisdom. In a culture that worships hustle and grind, the idea that letting go can be as powerful as grasping feels revolutionary. His relationship with the ocean, the big she, is a beautiful metaphor for life itself. You can't control it. You can't bend it to your will. You can only learn to respect its power, understand its currents, and dance within its flow. True power isn't about imposition, it's about alignment. So, what can we take from this? I think it starts with a simple, yet courageous act. Ask yourself the questions Will had to face. Who are the characters you play? What are they protecting you from? And what would your life look like if you didn't need anyone's approval but your own? What would you do if you weren't afraid? This journey from fear to freedom is not an easy one. It requires looking at the darkest parts of ourselves, the parts we've hidden away. But as Will's story shows, on the other side of that fear isn't just success. It's peace. It's love. It's the freedom to finally be yourself. That was a summary of Will by Will Smith. We've touched on the major themes and stories today, but I'll be honest with you, a summary can only take you so far. The real power of this book is in the nuance, the vulnerability, and the raw honesty of Will's voice. It's in the quiet moments between the blockbuster hits, when a particular story or a simple phrase hits you in a way you didn't expect. This summary is designed to help you decide if this book is worth your time. If anything we've talked about today has resonated with you, I highly recommend grabbing a copy. Reading it isn't just learning, it's an experience that can genuinely change the way you see yourself, your fears, and your own incredible potential. The link to the book is in the description below. Also, if you found this journey valuable, please show your support by hitting that like button and subscribing to the channel. It lets us know we're on the right track and ensures you won't miss our next exploration into another life-changing book from the billionaire's bookshelf. Let's keep growing together.